I haven't been this excited about an anime season for a long time, with several shows that I've been following as a manga finally making their debut on the big screen, and a certain show about a classroom of several not so elite edgelords getting a new season. I just know I'm gonna be able to milk the content dry, and also have a good time, of course. You know what? Why am I trying to hide it? Screw it, I'll say it. I'm milking Classroom of the Elite, and I'm doing a damn good job at it too. But sadly, that's not the topic of today's video. I want to talk about the bad shows on a different occasion and instead shift my focus on the shows I'm genuinely excited about. And in this season, we truly have it all. A new spin on the old shonen sports formula, not involving a bunch of screaming and Yosha! And instead, strangely, a lot of calm talking. A children's crime-solving show about a talking ass, literally. A whole shonen about an aura-farming chicken Vegeta. And a pure fantasy that's not an isekai, just a pure and classic fantasy that may be the new biggest thing, and many more. So welcome to the first ever Big Boa certified BBC Best of Spring 2026 award ceremony. Let's start with a big shonen one first, because I know most of you are here for the shonens. Demons of the Shadow Realm is surprisingly not as edgy as it sounds, but still tells a pretty fun story about our titular weird hair-colored airhead Yuru and his little town. It's an old village without any modern technology. They worship a god, they have dragons and shit. It's a classic fantasy. There is a big twist in the first episode, so before I get into all of the spoilers, I'll say this. It has some nice JJK or Chainsaw Man vibes. If that was enough to convince you to go watch it, go for it. It's a pretty fun watch. But only go after finishing the damn video, you hear me? Anyways, now for those of you who need a little more convincing. In that peaceful town, one day, people invade. They break some sort of barrier and get inside and just start going fully Tachi on their asses. But the weirdest thing is that they're doing this with modern technology. What we thought were dragon trails were just airplane trails. These guys have guns, grenades, and phones and shit, so it turns out we are in a modern world. The town was sheltered from it all due to a magic barrier. And in this chaos, Yuru goes to save his sister, who we saw earlier and seemed to be in a jail cell all her life for an unexplained reason. But then, this outsider mercilessly kills her and exclaims to be the guy's real sister. Now, confused as ever, but focused on survival, Yuru runs. Along the way, he meets this guy named Dara, who will play the teacher role, summon the gods he has worshipped his whole life, the right and the left, who become his personal guards, and, you know, all the normal stuff. And as suggested in the title, in this world, demons exist. These demons are like the ghosts, curses, devils, Pokemon, whatever, you get the idea. And Yuru's goal now is to traverse the new world and find out what the hell is going on by first talking to the person who claims to be his sister. The moment I knew this was going to be a good show was when they finally revealed the truth about things. Up until now, they set up the world subtly and made us truly believe that it was just a regular fantasy world. When they said that the airplane trails were from dragons, I did think in the back of my mind that it did look like planes, but it didn't overpower the feeling of a fantasy world. Even when they do reveal the truth, they don't really over-explain things because they don't need to. We aren't stupid, we know what's going on. And letting us figure that out instead of saying a bunch of bullshit to make sure that we know what an airplane is, has made the entire journey satisfying and engaging. I honestly think shonens as a whole are on the weaker side in quality. This is because of things like over-explaining things to a ridiculous degree and their focus on hype moments and aura instead of character writing. But I have to give it to the show. They do everything pretty well. If you're looking for a good shonen or a show to just have some fun with, give this one a try. For those reasons, Demons of the Shadow Realm gets the thank you, Jujutsu Chainsaw Man. Jujutsu Chainsaw Man? You know, because you are Jujutsu and a Chainsaw Man? Oh yeah, prize. And now, let's address the elephant in the room, or the chicken in the room in this case. I used to do this thing where I'd go outside. That was when I was still a rather young sprite filled with life and joy and still disgustingly addicted to anime and manga. So naturally, I would combine the two and I'd go outside, bike to my local library, and check out a manga or two. Yes, I was a loser. And there were a couple of gems that I simply would not have known about without seeing them for myself first. One of those were called I Had That Same Dream Again. Don't ask any questions, I don't care who you are, go read it. It will change your life. But that's not what I'm talking about here. In all of the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing that, the manga that lured me in the best was Rooster Fighter. As Shu Sakuratani's first major work, he wanted to show the world what he was capable of. He went all out, still free from the grasp of Big Corpa, allowing him to put on an unhinged masterclass of wits and tension. In simpler words, he did whatever the fuck he wanted. And with the help of the insane avant-garde mixed animation work from Sola Entertainment, banger voice acting starring literal All Might as the MC, and a super catchy OP by Daruma Rollin, this show is destined to be insane. Some would even say, chicken shit insane. 3 years prior to the setting of the show, demons called Kiju have started to blight this world, and having lost his precious sister to one of these demons, the chicken, the myth, the legend, Keiji swears to take revenge on the demon that ruined his life. Along this journey, he meets friends and rivals, and grows closer to people, and by people I mean actual people, and other sentient animals. And this show is something truly special. It has the same unhinged comedic style of Chainsaw Man with a whole new unique style of art that perfectly complements the terrifying nature of the horrific monsters, and a narrative tone that almost, I said almost, makes you forget that the protagonist is a talking fucking chicken. Or I should say, a talking clucking chicken. Smash-like. And obviously being a satire, this show also has some insanely funny comedy. The comedy isn't just witty, it is deep-rooted in the very premise of the show. So even when they aren't trying to be funny, they manage it, all while keeping the tension high at the exact right points. See, our avian protagonist is very similar in personality to someone like Vegeta, the dark edgelord badass who genuinely has some sick moments. That first time he uses ultimate finisher, not Kamehameha, but which is the Japanese onomatopoeia for chickens. I could not contain my cock in my pants. He's simply too cool. But the fact that he is so cool while being a silly little fowl, still conforming to his chicken nature, makes him unable to resist things like bugs and weirdly sea urchins, which always gets him in hilarious situations. And that's when they aren't even trying to be funny, that's just when the comedy writes itself. But when the author actually tries to write jokes, that's funny on a whole new level. For instance, there's this recurring gag of the cock getting cucked by a cock with an even bigger cock, and him coming back to watch his hen get clucked in the cloaca by that cock's cock. And not only that, this show has some actually serious undertones. It's a pretty dark commentary on various personal problems in Japanese society and how those individual problems affect others on a grander scale. And those dark connotations make the demons even more terrifying than they look, as the problems they represent are very true. There are several very personal dramas told in this story that can make you unexpectedly feel some super complex emotions. This show will make you laugh, cry, and scream hell yeah in seemingly every episode. And for that, Niwatori Fighter, or Rooster Fighter, is truly one of the best and highest quality shitposts in modern age, with an unexpectedly deep outlook on the world. I'll award Rooster Fighter the certification of best bullshit, and yes, I'm gonna use the same joke again. So I guess chicken shit, or bull cock in this case. And speaking of cocks, our next show has people with them, and also people without them. For example, our main character. I couldn't think of a good transition. Akane Banashi, a jump adaptation of a popular manga series which made its debut in 2022 about the unpopular and dying art of Rakugo, is one of the most hype non-battle anime I've ever seen. If you love hype moments, aura, training arcs, and a good old underdog story, you are going to love this show. Akane Banashi, with the correct Japanese pronunciation being Akane Banashi, translates to Akane Story, or The Story of Akane, which is actually a really cool title as it encapsulates the main plot of the show. See, this is a story about storytelling. Rakugo is an old, very traditional Japanese style of entertainment, and I mean very traditional, as the old, arguably outdated passe views cause many problems. If we were to bring up a Western equivalent, I'd probably bring up stand-up comedy, but it's also not that close to that. While it often focuses on comedic tales made even funnier through various facial expressions, impressions, and exaggerated tones, it also often represents history and the zeitgeist of the Edo period. If you're a dude and or you love shonens, you're probably gonna love this show. If you're a girl and or shonen is not always your thing, you're still probably gonna love this, especially with a very relatable and charming female main character. Akane loved the art of Rakugo ever since she was young and was heavily inspired by her dad, who was a trainee to become a prolific Rakugoka himself. However, one day, the head of the Arakawa Rakugo school, Issho Arakawa, expels him and a bunch of others for seemingly no reason. Though Akane always loved Rakugo, this fueled her passion even further to prove herself to the Rakugo world by becoming the very best like no one ever— nope, wrong show actually. Rakugo King isn't it either. The Rakugo Kage? Not that either. Her goal, instead, is to become a Shin-uchi, the highest of 3 total ranks in Rakugo. And one of the things I love the best in the show is world building. Though it takes place in a modern day Japan with no magic or anything, the way the show sets up the structure of the Rakugo hierarchy is not only super cool, but very real feeling. And due to the verisimilitude, the tension is always as high as ever. For example, you may have been thinking, why couldn't dad just go to a different school? How stupid. But the thing is, Rakugoka take on a parent-style relationship with their masters, even changing their family names, and being the loyal guy he is, Akane's dad refuses to essentially find new parents. And for those of you thinking, well, why doesn't he just become a Shin-uchi on his own? Well, like I said earlier, Rakugo is a very traditional space with strict hierarchies. Masters and teachers are important not only because they'll teach you stuff, but because you need their approvals to rank up. They're the kings here. They hold way more power than you may think, so I promise you the world building is very thorough and there's a reason for everything. And that is just the real world. Well, the real world in the story. We haven't even gotten to the story world in the story, because that's a whole other monster. There are so many interesting stories, each with very unique ways to tell them, which makes a world of difference. And not only are the stories they tell interesting in and of itself, it also transcends Akane Banashi as a show and has to do a lot with other stories as well. A lot of these Rakugo stories are very standard for Japanese children to hear, and naturally, many anime take inspiration from it. And some of these stories are so iconic that you, as a Westerner, may even know them. For example, you've probably heard the story of 10ゲム5校のすり切れ会社で水行の水行待つ雲来待つ風来待つくねるところに住むところやぶら工事のブラ工事パイポのシューリンガンのグリーンダイのポンポコピンのポンポコナーの長久面の長介. Yes, it's from that one Full Metal Alchemist meme. But now, you know where it's from. It's a Rakugo story. And the story of 10ゲム5 I'm not doing this again. But that story actually has a way deeper meaning that this show will tell you about. So even if you aren't typically interested in this, if you like anime or Japanese culture at all, I think you should 100% watch this show. You'll get a completely new look on so many stories. With a lovable cast, a great story, and great stories within the story, this show is looking to be one of the best, not just in the season, but in the year and maybe even the decade. And by far, the thing I am most excited for is the production. And I don't mean animation and art and sound design, though all those things are fire. Like, look here. Did you notice it? This scene made me cum buckets. Listen again. When she pours the water into the sink, you can hear it. And you can hear other things like the sounds different kinds of shoes and fabric makes, and the filter on people talking with microphones being so much more realistic somehow. And not to mention the OP. Holy fucking peak. I don't use that word lightly. I think the way people use it has made it vapid and meaningless, but I genuinely believe that this is the best OP of the season. The music perfectly captures the atmosphere of the show, and the little dance they do, oh my god. This show has some insane attention to detail. But aside from this, aside from all that, the main star of production here is the voice acting. The voice acting and casting choices are crucial here as the story centers itself around verbal storytelling. feeling. And seeing the casting choice and how it has come to life already, I can surely say that it is perfect. We have the guy who did Blackbeard and All for One as Issho Arakawa, Rie fucking Takahashi, the legendary voice actor, as an in-universe legendary voice actor, and Anna Nagase, known for her roles as Riko Amanai from JJK and Ushio Kofune from Summertime Rendering, as Akane. And boy am I excited about the performances. And for those reasons, I present Akane Banashi with the if you're going to only watch one show this season because you don't have time, even though you definitely do, I know you have tons of time scrolling TikTok, which also makes One Piece is too long kind of a dumb argument because there's no time limit by which you have to watch it by, and I know your ass has tons of time, but if you're still going to only watch one show, watch this one, Certification. If you were to take one thing from this video, it should be that you should subscribe. A close second would be to watch Akane Banashi. However, a third thing is a possible remedy for those of you who, like me, have been having Kaguya-sama withdrawal symptoms. I think I genuinely may be addicted. Let me tell you the timeline of what I've been doing recently. I watched the 2 new special episodes, then I was like, well, if I'm watching it, I may as well just watch the whole show. And so I did. And then I was like, well, if I'm watching the whole show, I may as well read the rest too. And then I remember that there was a spin-off series that I haven't read yet that happens at the same time as the main story, but I read that on its own. And then I was like, well, since it happens at the same time, it must be a whole new experience reading both at the same time. And so I did. And now, every single time it's quiet and I close my eyes, I hear all the sound effects from the show, like Masayuki Suzuki songs, the guitar sound that happens whenever something cool happens, the and scariest of all, I'm okay. But recently, I found a show that has made this pain just a little better. You know the game of chicken, where you take a car and drive it towards another guy and the one to swerve away and back out loses? Or the one where you go to kiss your no homo homie and the first one to back out loses? Just me? Well, I played that once, and let's just say that it was a tie where we both technically won. I Want to End This Love Game takes inspiration from both the game and Kaguya-sama. Very similarly, it follows a story of 2 young adversarial lovers, Yukiya and Miku, 2 childhood friends, and their I love you game. What is this game exactly? The rules are very simple. You look each other in the eyes and say, I love you. And the first one to admit embarrassment loses. But basically, it's just whoever confesses first loses. And funnily enough, they did a very similar thing in one of Kaguya-sama's newer episodes too, where they take turns confessing to each other and try not to get embarrassed. And even outside of this, the show is extremely similar to Kaguya, to the point where I'd be surprised if the writer wasn't a super fan of the series themselves. And I'm here for it all. Because Love is War was so great, even a weaker clone of it is really good. Even if they do their own version of the Kabe down, even if all the characters are interesting, go-getting, and bold, even if the male protag's motivations for making the other confess first is that they feel inferior and the only way to feel that they're on equal footing is for the other to confess first, even if both shows make you scream, "Hey dum-dum! She likes you!" Despite all those similarities, I'm here for it all. And with its tried and true method, funny characters who you can actually root for, which is sadly rare in this genre, if you liked Love is War, I can almost guarantee that you will like this too. I Want to End This Love Game gets the, please, I'm addicted to Kaguya-sama, please help me. This is a genuine cry for help. Prize. Similarly, if you liked Ass Room of the Elite, death game shows, or ones that have to do with manipulating and controlling people with your super huge brain and you watch it and it makes you think, I'm just like that guy, then I can almost guarantee that you will like Liar's Game. Now, that may have come off a little more negative than I actually intended it. All I'm saying is that if you do enjoy things like that, you will 100% enjoy this. But those aren't the only people who can enjoy this, because I actually think this series is a bit above that. If you're stupid and think Classroom of the Elite is at the peak of intelligence, then you will be blown away by this too. If you actually have a brain and think that Classroom of the Elite is actually pretty dumb, you can still probably enjoy this a decent amount. Because honestly, this show's schemes do at least make sense, though the capabilities of the characters are still a little far-fetched. If you are willing to suspend some disbelief and watch a guy aura farm with his brains, this show is a really fun watch. Liar Game, a manga that ran from 2005 to 2015, which finally got its 20-year overdue anime adaptation by Madhouse, who perfectly used clean modern animation styles to bring the very distinct classic early 2000s art style to life, follows the story of Nao Kanzaki, an honest to an extreme fault girl who one day gets an invitation with a 100 million yen. She is told that another player was also given the same amount of money and that her task is to have hold of the other contestants' money by the end of the round. And of course, there is a catch. And no, this isn't a death game. No one will die due to a loss. The fate is arguably even worse than death, being 100 million yen in debt to an unknown clandestine group who will probably use any means necessary to torment you and ultimately get that money back from you. So she goes to a lawyer. Wait a minute, is that Asian Saul? Didn't know I'll see that today. Asian Saul tells her that she legally can't back out of the game due to some fine print. It is also soon revealed that Saul works for the company running the games. Anyways, she continues with the games, but luckily, she knows her first opponent, her old teacher. And since she remembers her teacher to be a kind, honest man, she blindly trusts him when he says that he'll hold on to her money to keep it safe. With her loss being imminent, she goes and begs a convicted con artist named Akiyama, who just so happens to be released from jail that same day, to help her win it back. And that's the general idea of the first game. There are multiple rounds of this game, each with different rules and interesting ways to win. Nao is honestly kinda dumb as bricks and also annoying as shit, especially in the beginning. Like, please give this bitch some cheese to go with all that wine she's doing. But every time she gets herself in trouble, Akiyama comes and saves her with some clever strategies that play on math and logic. They use principles similar to the Monty Hall problem ones, real psychology that makes sense, and over time, Nao learns to be a bit more cunning and does become a little better. Let me make this clear, she is extremely annoying in the beginning. Like, she's ugly, sobbing, and screaming very often, but she does get better. If you can get past this initial phase, you will likely enjoy her a lot more. And could I sit here and be a pedantic little prick and talk about how the way everything works is a bit unrealistic? Yes. This show really requires a level of suspending disbelief to how insanely smart and dumb some of these characters are, which do sometimes act as flaws, but at the very least, the logic and manipulations do make sense. And with Classroom of the Elite having a new season and me obviously having to watch that shit show, the sound watching the show acts as a really good refresher to keep me sane. If you liked Shit Room of the dog fucking ass holy sweet mother of Kami-sama please save me, you will enjoy this show because you guys will enjoy any show as long as they even have the guise of being somewhat smart regardless of if they actually are or not. If you have a brain, you will also probably enjoy the interesting games and the interesting ways to solve them that actually make sense. Let's congratulate Liar Game for the Classroom of the Elite fans can go rim me medal. Speaking of whiny characters and that awesome pun, let's talk about the other meaning of wine, the alcoholic beverage. Wine, as a hobby and profession, probably has the biggest following out of any other beverage. You know of wine sommeliers, you know the little gestures they do before tasting it, even though you really can't tell the difference or know what they're doing. But the thing about hobbies, even the niche ones, is that there can always be an anime made based on it. Hell, if we have an interesting show about Rakugo, which is essentially just people talking, there sure as hell can be an interesting show about wine sommeliers. Drops of God doesn't follow the formula you think it would. You would expect something like Glass of God, totally unrelated series by the way, where a bartender knows just the right thing for specifically you, creating a Monster of the Week or Drink of the Week series. But no, this is a shonen in the most classic sense. Wealth, fame, wine. Yutaka Kanzaki, the king of wine, attains everything wine has to offer. And so, many men head for the Grand Wine to find the great treasure he left behind, the wine piece. And of course, our protagonist Shizuku Kanzaki, a young man working for a beer company as a general office worker in rebellion to his father, has some superpowers to aid him in this journey. Being the son of the titular dead guy who left everything at that place, he grew up being forced to indirectly learn about wine, which ultimately caused him to hate the hobby. Though he's never tried any of it, he grew accustomed to many smells and tastes present in wine and techniques used to heighten the taste and feel of any wines. And those techniques and skills prove to be super useful to our main character once his father dies, leaving a will that states that the member of his family that correctly identifies and describes in a similar manner as he did 13 wines, 12 of which are known as the 12 apostles, and with the last wine known as the drops of God, will inherit everything he owned. The way the show makes you feel tense and hype and shit about a dude sniffing wine is kinda insane. Somehow, it's always thrilling and interesting. Somehow, they make wine, which honestly all tastes very similar to most of us, seem all different and cool. And plus, you learn a lot more about the drink, the processes it goes through to be made, what makes a good wine, how to make wines better, and so much more. The world building in the show, for being set in a realistic non-fiction world, kinda goes stupid hard with so many different components of wine, figures in the industry, and so much more. And by the way, this series is huge. The manga has like 400 chapters with 2 other spin-offs, a Japanese live-action series, and a pretty popular French-American TV adaptation. One of the spin-offs has around 250 chapters, the Japanese TV version has 1 season, and the Western one has 2. Let me say this again, this series is huge. It goes plus ultra and goes beyond just the manga and anime sphere. And somehow, each arc, each wine is different. It truly amazed me at how much there is to this hobby. And the success of the story, but more importantly, my opinion, because that obviously matters more, shows that the story itself is good. But the animators at Satellite, mainly known for Hellsing Ultimate, go far and beyond on this show. Just look at the wine animation. That genuinely might be the best liquid animation I've ever seen. It makes me want to release some sort of liquid. This show, for its grand ventures past just anime and manga, and for shedding light so well and so interestingly on this hobby, will be awarded the I want a big-titted goth girl to come home drunk off the finest wine, beat me to a pulp, and cry and apologize profusely as we fall asleep together in each other's arms prize. You know, recently I've been loving dystopia as a genre. It started with cyberpunk, then to dieselpunk games like BioShock, to Apocalypse Hotel, and now Nippon Sangoku, which literally translates to Japan 3 countries. This is set in a dystopian world where pretty much everything goes wrong. A nuke, a pandemic, and a devastating earthquake decimates Japan. Anyways, these unfortunate events destroy Japan, and amidst the poor state of the world with instability and fear reigning as the primary zeitgeist of the era, Japan ultimately regresses socially, technologically, and in pretty much any other way you can think of, and splits into 3 sovereign kingdoms who are constantly at war with each other. Within that hellish world stuck in a nuclear winter, a humble agricultural leader with a knack for martial strategy named Aoteru Misumi lives a quiet life with his loving wife Saki. Being the pragmatic guy he is, he doesn't really care for others. This doesn't mean that he's a bad person and will actively harm others. He simply wants to live a quiet life. Just him and his loving wife, and he won't let others take that away from him. However, his wife is kind of a different person, acting as his antithesis as an outgoing, go-getting, and determined person. And let me just say that the show managed to completely enthrall me with this characterization right at the beginning. It starts with a wedding, and due to the regression of social norms, weddings are held in a more traditional Japanese way. That means no wedding dresses or any other Western or Christian things. But the wife, she doesn't care. She is adamant about wearing a wedding dress because it looks cute. That's it. And I love it. They don't overly explain it or show us a big, drastic, over-the-top, super serious instance of her being this way, but instead uses the quotidian, super personal moments of life as the vessel to show this trait. But of course, that super serious event also does happen later on, where a rogue tax collector dude strolls over and pretty much steals from people using the threat of capital punishment as leverage. Seeing this and realizing how unjust it is, Saki steps in, giving this pig a piece of her mind. And it does work, they back off for the time. However, in their sleep that night, those same guys come over and execute her. From this point on, Misumi gains the courage he always lacked, which ultimately prevented him from being like his wife, and vows that he will use his mind to change the world, reunite Japan, and create a country free of oppression, injustice, and corruption. And the story is just about that. It asks many deep questions about philosophy and morality. It has some insane world building, though they do honestly over-explain at times, and a super realistic portrayal of government and how a position does not always equate righteousness. And it's not the case where all government officials are super evil. You know, they're not all like the Celestial Dragons. It's a little deeper than that. There are those like the Celestial Dragons. There are some that are just super incompetent. There are some that care more about the country's strength and pride than the people in it. There's some who take justice too literally, and many more. Nippon Sangoku tells a tragic tale of a man who has lost everything and his struggles to gain courage and not just change the world, but to change as a person. I think this is the most intense and serious show today, and if you are looking for a seinen, I highly suggest you go watch it. For those reasons, I nominate Nippon Sangoku for the medal of, yo, all countries, how about we don't use nukes, please? And if you are still looking for something a little more serious, but also more lighthearted with the stakes. Maybe worrying about making friends and love and shit is more your style than all-out nuclear war, corruption, and coups, and all the other sissy stuff. If that's you, I have something for you as well. Ramparts of Ice, a web manga by Kocha Agasawa, the same brilliant mind between you and I are polar opposites, about a quiet introverted girl with figurative ramparts of ice, signifying the cold, closed-off way she interacts with people, and how she starts making friends and finds love and shit. It's a very simple show, but it still deals with many super real issues high schoolers may have. If you've ever watched Kimi ni Todoke, that is very similar to this. Even the art style seems to be heavily inspired by that series. Also, fun fact about Kimi ni Todoke, I had a video in the making for that show, but I stopped it. That's it. That's also pretty much it for this show. There seriously isn't much to say other than that it's cute, portrays friendship in an equally fun way, and that it's good. The main character is likable and isn't an asshole, which many shows seem to conflate with being an introvert. One of the boys in this show is just a cool, friendly guy. The other one is a bit pushy to say the least, but still not in an annoying or malign way. This isn't anything to write home about, but I know that if you like romances or even just friendships as a whole, you will eat this up like crazy. The best friend character is equally adorable and funny. Trust me, you'll love her. Me personally, I'm going to be saving this show to watch after watching some traumatic shit as a nice palate cleanser. Ramparts of Ice, I bestow upon thee a trophy and also a nice cake with, holy shit, how much sugar? Another thing that I can just eat like crazy is Your Mom Out, but also some good old-fashioned world building. Being able to fully immerse yourself in a world with several moving parts, unconfined to just the main character's relatively small perspectives, and seeing the sound reasons for every part of civilian and quotidian life always heightens the overall experience of the story, making things lived in and therefore more personal. Witch Hat Atelier is a series that some of you may not even need an introduction to. It's a huge manga selling over 7 million copies worldwide, and for a good damn reason. The story takes place in a world where magic is a part of everyday life, used in the same ways technology is used today. It's used in the most mundane ways: stoves, cooking, lights, and many more. And though having cool magic powers shown in bullshit is cool and all, I think this is where it's really at. I'm a firm believer that the mundane makes the world. The commonplace and what goes on in the lives outside of the main cast's eccentric ones is what builds worlds. The main characters of any show will always have the most interesting lives. That is why they're the main characters. And because so much is happening to them, they're honestly pretty bad examples of what life is like as an average Joe. Not everyone is on an adventure to be the best like no one ever was. Not everyone is out for revenge or anything crazy. To build worlds that feel lived in, you must build the vast majority of people who actually live in it, the average Joes. And this show does that perfectly. We see so many different interesting implications of magic and how it is used in daily life rather than in insane battles. And though it is everywhere and seeing those things is a world building lover's wet dream, a very small amount of people with latent talents can actually use it. Or at least, that is what is told to the public. See, witches, which by the way in this universe are a gender neutral term, keep the secrets of magic and how it works in a strict small circle to protect the people. Though magic certainly makes itself useful, it is also very dangerous. To prevent any harm to people from magic, it has been made so that only a small handful of qualified people know the secrets of its mechanisms. In this world, you don't cast magic by saying a chant or waving a wand. You draw it, and anyone with some ink and paper can also cast magic. And in this world, our charming heroine, fascinated by everything magic, Coco, one day finds out how magic really works. And what I really like about the way she found out was that she didn't just happen to find out. When the witch Kifri was in her town for some general business, he needed to use magic wands to fix a carriage. Though he went about this almost clandestinely, she sneaks in herself and watches him. I really like the fact that she took the initiative and made stuff happen. It only happened because it was her. If it was anyone else, if it was even a different protagonist, they wouldn't have gone to peak. Her innocent curiosity and passionate love for magic is what caused her to do this. If you remember, this was one of my criteria for good protagonists. They must be proactive and make shit happen due to their personality and influence. And even outside of the technical stuff, she's just so damn cute. If that and some kick-ass world building are enough to make you watch a show, go for it. That was a big part of why people like Frieren so much. This has some similar vibes to that show, which you know is an insane compliment. But after watching and learning about magic, she naturally tries some on her own. She remembers that a masked witch once gave her a book and wand, which she now realizes was a book filled with different runes and a writing utensil. Through obsessive experimentation, she figures out that multiple factors such as size and how neatly it is drawn have an effect on the magic's power and duration respectively. And if that's the case, there's an easy way to make some insane magic, tracing the spells in the book. And when she did that, suddenly, what she casted happened to be forbidden magic, spells that cause harm against people, which were outlawed after the devastating impacts this style of magic has had on an entire generation. And the victim of that spell this time happened to be Coco's loving mother. In order to save her from the spell which has petrified her and to find and stop the underground witches who still use forbidden magic, Coco becomes Kifri's apprentice. And being a story kind of about art, of course, the animation is insane. Even the runes themselves and how they work only when fully closed look insane. So don't even get me started on the actual magic animation. But most importantly, forget everything else I've said. This is the most important thing. Coco is just so damn cute. Personally, I honestly like Akane Banashi more, but this is a very close second. And for that, this show gets the wow. Sorry, I just got distracted looking at the absolutely gorgeous animation prize. Alright, just a few more to go, lock it in. If you've made it this far, also subscribe. This video took a dumb amount of time to research and write, so I'd appreciate it a lot. Goal is 100k by the end of the year. You know, I'm honestly okay with the entire genre of BL. I'm a straight dude, as straight as it gets, but watching BL is just like seeing any other romance to me, and I can appreciate BLs if they're good at all. Sadly, they're rarely ever good and instead focus on the taboo aspect and they just make it insanely horny, which is why I was pleasantly surprised with Go For It Nakamura-kun. They could have done so much horny shit. The main character likes octopus, for God's sake. That's like a quirky little trait he has. He has an octopus as a pet. Imagine all the tentacle freak shit they could have done with that. And besides, that's just good character writing. I've said this before about many characters, but just give them something random to be passionate about. A dude likes octopus, awesome. We've had a character like water before. Literally anything is okay. Just giving them this small narratively unimportant trait can make a character feel so much more close to us. But Go For It Nakamura-kun is just a vanilla romance about an introverted dude who happens to be gay. Not a gay guy, just a guy who happens to be gay. He doesn't fall under any stereotypes. They don't make stereotypically gay a trait. He's really just an ordinary guy who happens to like boys. He falls for a guy in his class, but just doesn't have the guts to go for it. Nakamura-kun. He said it! And aside being generally wholesome while still dealing with homosexuality as a whole in a very realistic and grounded way, the show's funny. If you're put off by the gay romance, I get it. It's not for everyone, and I'm not gonna tell you that you're a bad person or anything, but trust me, it's a funny show. Even if it's not your thing, give it a shot. You might find yourself liking it. The crux of the comedy is Nakamura himself. He's introverted, but in the same kind of delusional way Bocchi is from Bocchi the Rock. And the way he always tries makes me really want to root for him, but the dumb bullshit he comes up with always ends up being funny. Note that this was also a manga series, but that manga was really short, like 2 volumes only short, and because of its length, it doesn't have enough content for a full-length anime, which is why I thought that it was going to be a short form, but it's not. They added content and went deeper into existing plots and jokes, and honestly, I'm really digging it. I'm also really digging the more early 2000s art style that doesn't look like the same vanilla romance harem slop art style that people seem to like for some reason. Go For It Nakamura-kun will be receiving the medal of even as straight burly men who can't appreciate a cute-ass boy. And speaking of art, there's a whole show about it, but not in the way you think. Erin the Southpaw, called that because she is left-handed, is not about boxing or sports despite the way it sounds, but it is instead about artists and how their lives and journeys are not flamboyant and majestic contrary to what their pieces may suggest. The show deals with the fact that a majority of artists try and fail to succeed and how that may cause problems to everyone around you. Koichi is an aspiring designer who currently works for the designing department of a company. However, he must still deal with very realistic troubles of working at a company. Clients may not want what is objectively better. He must take the fault if the product doesn't do well, and if it does do well, another department might get the credit. Hierarchies exist, and he has very little power. This is all very different with what he had in mind, and shit honestly sucks. In the manga, we actually start with him as an adult and dealing with these types of problems. In the anime adaptation, however, they go with something different. We see the bright-eyed young sprite version of him who is still super inspired and believes in himself. However, as he grows up, all that starts to dwindle. See, one of his greatest motivations was a girl named Erin, a genius artist in his class who one day drew some sick-ass graffiti over an art museum, practically exclaiming that their art sucks. Koichi thought that this was sick and became motivated to make some graffiti of his own, kinda as a way of saying that they're rivals. And after seeing his lackluster art compared to her, she confronts him, furious and in pain that he wasn't even close to her skill. You may be wondering, who the hell Erin is and what her deal is. Erin, inspired by her dad who was a struggling artist, loved art. However, one day he dies in a very anime dad-esque fashion. It was a car accident, but they don't really know if it was a suicide, and it is hinted at that it might have been, as he honestly was miserable. And seeing what devoting one's whole life to art can do, she swears off of it, despite still loving and appreciating it. That's why she was so upset that Koichi wasn't better than her. She wants to see someone way better than her, to beat her so badly that she loses all motivation to continue. Right now, she's at the weird spot where the passion for art still screams at her to continue, but the trauma and the fact that the only way of her to go to art school will be with the life insurance money that her dad left prevents her from pursuing it. She can't move on, nor can she proceed. It's the worst of both worlds. I've said before that you can just move on from trauma. That was one of the criticisms I've had for Your Lie in April. They act like you must face your traumas no matter what. I disagree. You can just move on, find different things you care about, and eventually have those things outshine the darkness in the past, which Kose was starting to do until Kaori's devil ass came around. But this show captures what happens when you can neither move forward with your passion nor leave it. There are a bunch of moving components, and the story isn't told in a purely chronological order, so it is hard to explain it, but it deals with all of these struggles really well. Erin the Southpaw is a really good story of trauma and the struggles of being an artist and how these two help each other progress in life. It is a darker show, but it's not all sad either. It also deals with love and love not being realized, the true meaning of growing up, the themes of dreams, and many more. For that, Erin the Southpaw will be receiving arguably the highest honor of all time, a picture I personally drew of Ayano Koji from memory. I really tried, don't make fun of me. Before moving on to the next and final show, can we first get a round of applause for all the shows to make it here today for their high, totally legit honors that they have received? Alright, thank you. But I'm here to tell you that all those pale in comparison to the star of today's ceremony. Please give it up for Butt Detective. Okay, this isn't really a show that is completely new to this season, so it shouldn't count. Who's hosting this shit? Oh wait. Oh, it's me. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm honestly only adding this because I want more people to know about it. I honestly didn't even know this was an anime, or even Japanese for that matter, until I was doing research for this video. See, the thing is, I have the original books. I grew up on this, and having grown up in Korea, I also got the books in Korean, which made me think that it was just a Korean series. But nope, it is Japanese, and it was super nostalgic to see it again. Being a kids show, the story is really as simple as it gets. A guy with a butt face solves crime. There's a couple of movies out on Netflix, and there's a new season now. You might have to VPN to Japan servers for it, but it's there somewhere. If you have kids or just want to have some dumb fun, go for it. Butt Detective will receive the Certificate of Honor with a weirdly shaped seal on it. And that's all for today. Once again, a round of applause for everyone here today. If you made it this far, subscribe so you can also attend the next one too. My name is NoahBoahCoah. She likes me back, she likes me back, she likes me back, and thank you for watching. Attending! Thank you for attending.